if you have been wondering, hey, how do I really create routines that could really support my health, that feel life-giving and don't feel draining or restrictive, I am so excited for this episode for you. So this episode, I have the amazing Tanya Shaw on to really help guide us through what are the 3 steps around routines that we can really establish good routines to really help us and move us towards our health goals. Tanya Shaw is a sought-after life and weight loss coach. She's the host of the Fit and Vibrant You podcast, founder of Ascend Fitness and Lifestyle, a holistic coaching studio in Canada, and the Fit Plus Vibrant Over 50 community. She has an incredible reputation for helping thousands of women to get to their happy, healthy weight permanently, naturally, and without the obsession so they can live their life. She lives in Canada with her husband and her son, and she loves being active outdoors, hiking, running, mountain biking, and camping. My goodness. Go girl. And she loves a good cup of coffee and red wine. So I am really excited for our conversation. It was just so good. I'm actually going to be on her podcast as well, the Fit and Vibrant podcast. So I'm going to definitely link that in here as well. And she's also one of our speakers next week for the Your Healthiest Years Yet Summit. If you haven't heard me talk about this and you're 40 plus or you have friends 40 plus, this is for you and them. This is a special summit made just for women over 40 plus to really shift the mindset, shift the habits, but really help them see that, you know what, midlife and beyond can actually be your healthiest years yet when you get the support that you need. All right, so make sure you listen to this episode. You can kind of get a little bit of preview of her talk, but also all the other 32 plus talks that you can watch and attend for free and grab some amazing resources. You could also purchase lifetime access to the summit, which comes with tons of bonuses, like a free coaching call with me, my habits and food journal tracker, giveaways that each speaker is giving away. So it's really a great price. And it's only $47 this week before the summit starts when you get like 6+ bonuses, a workbook and everything, right? So definitely go listen to last week's episode to learn about all the details with the summit. I'll make sure to link it here, but just sign up and I'll be emailing you to let you know everything. So I'm really excited for the upcoming summit, really excited to have Tanya on and can't wait for next week. So enjoy and I'll talk to you soon. You're listening to the More Than Your Weight podcast, and I am Brianna Wilkerson, your host. You know, over half my life, I really struggled with my relationship with food, my body, and myself. I was constantly finding my worth in my weight, in what I did, in how I looked, and how other people saw me. And healthy living was just about getting that affirmation. But when I started to see that my worth and my health was so much more than my weight, I found breakthrough. Yes, my body got to a weight that it really thrived at, but more so than that, I loved myself. I took care of myself and I cared for my body in the way that it needed. And I am on a mission to help other women do the same. And so through this podcast, my programs, my group, I really am on a mission to help other women find peace with food, feel confident in their bodies again, and develop healthy habits and a lifestyle that's so much more than about their weight. So I'm so excited to journey with you on this podcast where you'll find solo episodes, guest interviews, and an occasional essential oil episode from time to time. But before you leave, I want you to do a couple things. Make sure you join my Facebook group, More Than Your Weight Women's Community, where you can unpack these episodes, get weekly trainings, monthly challenges, and a lot of support. But also be sure to hit subscribe and rate and review this podcast, because guess what? I want to make sure this podcast pops in your inbox every single week. But then if you are on Instagram, make sure you follow me there because I show a little bit behind the scenes of my business and my own health journey. So I'm so excited that you're here. Can't wait for you to listen to this new episode. But also, again, just know that you are so much more than your weight. Your health and your worth is so much more than your weight. All right, enjoy the episode, and I hope to talk to you soon. All right, everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today, we have Tanya Shaw with us to chat all about routines, because we all know we need to create habits and routines, right? We all know we need to do that, but how do we actually do it in a way that fits our lives and in a way that's sustainable? And she is going to chat all about that. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so excited because not only do I get to have you on the podcast, but you're also in the summit that's open for registration now, Your Healthiest Years Summit, where you're going to dive a little bit deep into some of this stuff and some other stuff too. But so we're giving everyone a little sneak peek of you and your work and what you're going to chat about.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm thrilled to be a part of the summit, and I'm really looking forward to sharing some of
Mhm.
this information and these strategies with your listeners.
Yeah. All right. So tell us before we dive into talking about routines, habits, tell us a little bit about you and your story, maybe, just around health, but also in regards to routines and habits as well.
Fantastic. So I currently help other women, specifically over the age of 50, to feel really good in their bodies. And that means ditching the diets, getting to their happy, healthy weight permanently and actually without the obsession so they can feel good and really live a full, free life. And that often means making peace with food, their body. So you can really use all that mental real estate to living your life instead of always being stuck in this diet cycle of body hate and self hate and thinking you should do something in inconsistency and all the things. And for me personally, I got into this as we do because we often teach what we have gone through. And I went through a very, a big part of my life for my younger years where I was very into dieting and disorder eating and let the number on the scale and dictate my self-worth. And it just really took me away from fully living my life. At the same time, I was coaching other men and women to lose weight, to become fitter. I was a personal trainer. And I thought the answer was just in stricter diet plans and harder workouts and HIIT workouts and strength training. And they got results, but they never were able to really sustain it. And I realized that there was really something missing in between the whole knowing what to do and doing it and making a sustainable lifestyle change. And I really set out to fill that gap. So that's what I do now. And I've been on this journey personally too since 2014-ish is when I really started to understand that I needed to make a change. And I'm still on this journey. I mean, it's
Mhm.
not like there's no arriving. There's no like, oh, I'm done. Check the box, shake, wipe my hands up that. It's really a work in progress. And it's a beautiful work in progress because it opens up the doors to so many other things in life. And the topic of routines is it's actually impacted my life in a couple of different reasons. One is we often have all of these things like I need to go do work. I need to go, pick up this from the dry cleaners and all these things. We have all these things that are our to-dos, but lots of women, lots of people, lots of women especially struggle with putting themselves on their to-do list.
Mhm.
And from a consistency perspective, we often just dive headfirst into these diet plans. We overhaul, we do the pantry purge, we decide we're going to start, this workout plan, but we never take the time to lay the foundation to create the routines and structures so that we can implement those things successfully.
Mhm.
And I really think about all of this as if we're building a house. I coach my women through a 3-phase program called See It, Do It, Live It. That's Fit and Vibrant Over 50. And that see it phase is all about laying that foundation. So when you build a house, you don't just start building the house. You get the right tools, you create the plan, you create the structure, you create the foundation. And that first phase, see it, is all about doing that. It's laying it's creating the routines, it's creating the habits, it's creating the structures so that you can stay consistent on the things that you're going to do, whether it is working out or drinking your water, or whatever it is. It's really about having those routines so you can stay consistent of those habits that you want to create. The next phase of the program, just to kind of give you everything in context here, is where we actually do the things. So it's the habits that are actually going to transform our lives, make us feel better, take care of our health. And then the third phase is all about, so that do it phase is all about building the house, putting the kitchen in, the bathroom in, the roof on the house. And that last phase is all about making the house strong.
Mm.
It's about ditching the barriers, the challenges, overcoming all of those things that got you stuck in the past. So sometimes it's emotional eating, it's the mindset
Mm.
pieces, it's
Mm.
that needs to be important too. It's also making the house beautiful. So it's a place that you want to live. It's not this thing that you're white knuckling in, trying to
Mm.
be perfect at or anything like that. So I just want to kind of offer you that 3-phase program. And most diet plans will teach the do it phase, or they'll teach some aspect of it. I mean, there's lots of healthy nutrition programs out there. There's some really unhealthy ones, but there's lots of healthy ones too. And there's lots of ones that do emphasize whole foods and all that stuff's really good. But without the foundational piece, without having those routines in place, there's nothing to help you stay consistent. And that's a big part of my Fit and Vibrant Over 50 program. I'm going to be diving into this a lot more in the summit. And also I have a 6-week transformation program where we just focus on those routines and structures. And the cool thing is that when women go through that and they just do that part, they lose weight, they feel better, they feel happier, like everything changes. And we don't even touch any coaching on nutrition or anything else, but everything changes because we start to implement these routines.
Mm-hmm. I love the analogy to a house because, it's interesting you're talking about like laying the foundation and then actually building the house and then living in it. And it's so true where most programs or even most of our mindsets around healthy living, losing weight, managing food, body confidence, it's that do it phase. Let's just change what's going on. Let's do something different. Let's get a result. But hardly ever is that after effect, right? Like that sustainable part where we have to live in our bodies. We have to keep this up. So what do we do now? And so I love that 3-phase process that you lead your clients through. So, but when people talk about routines, I would love for you to define like, what is a routine? And then, you already kind of talked about how routines fit into the 3-step process, but go ahead, tell us a little bit more about routines.
Great question. So routines, I actually looked it up on the internet and the definition of routines on the Google dictionary beforehand, but it's simply a process. It's a process, it's a procedure is what routines are. But I specifically teach routines that are not just like any routines. I mean, you can call brushing your teeth a routine. You can call walking to work a routine. That could be part of your routines. It could be going to bed and reading a book before you go to bed. That could be part of your routine. But I teach a couple of routines that are really specific to solving the issues that women have to stay consistent with their healthy habits. Because you can call drinking your water a routine, but we also need a routine, a framework, a structure behind that routine so that when you do things like I'm going to start drinking more water, it stays more, you stay more consistent. So routines, the ones that I teach, are about being more intentional with living the life you want to live, being that person you want to be, saying yes to yourself. And just to give you a bit of a background, I wanted to actually just talk about a couple of the reasons why we struggle to be consistent. And that's going to really be a bit eye-opening to understand why these routines are so important, because the routines really do solve a lot of the issues that we deal with. So one is that we wait for motivation. We often start a program and we hit rock bottom at some point. We see a number on the scale. We see a picture of ourselves that we no longer want to see. Our doctor tells us that we are really unhealthy. Our biggest clothes in our closet no longer fit us. We take action usually when we hit rock bottom, and you feel motivated. You feel often just not good in your body, and you go take action. You start a program. You get excited. But that motivation, that excitement feeling never lasts. It's not meant to, it can't. And we end up fizzling in terms of our healthy habits because we have not set routines to keep ourselves motivated on a regular basis. So one of the routines I teach is simply about, and I'm going to go over this a lot more in the summit, is the routines to keep motivation happening. Because motivation is not a passive process. It's not something we just sit down and wait for it to happen. It's something that we actually can create by having a routine in the morning to be motivated. Like, wouldn't it be awesome if every day you could wake up and you could be motivated or feel motivated, or at least a little bit more motivated? Not every day we're going to, feel like we want to do everything we're going to do. Sometimes you just do it anyway. But to connect to your purpose, connect to your goals, to create that feeling, evoke that emotion that you started with on a regular basis is a really important routine. Another reason why we struggle is we hope that we're going to change our mindset. I know you do a lot of coaching, Brianna, about mindset and the power of mindset and how important it is in terms of making a sustainable lifestyle change. And we think that, okay, I'm just going to lose the weight. I'm just going to do this keto diet. And then when that's done, I've lost weight, then I'm going to go change my mindset. Or we hope that we're going to lose the weight. And as a result of losing the weight, our mindset's going to change. Hope is not a strategy. And we need routines specifically to create changes in our mindset. Because if we just passively hope that's going to happen, it's not. I mean, it might a little bit, and you might kind of just by diffusion or just by listening to some things, you might evoke some of these mindset changes. But without having specific routines to create the change that you want to create, to be intentional with the way that you want to think, to start to change your identity, it might not happen, which is a big reason why we struggle with consistency, because we do the things, but we never actually change who we are inside. And there's this like elastic effect where if you're here, and this is an audio podcast, and I was going to start using hand signals, but let's say you have this identity and you try all these different habits. So you're like, it's almost like you're stretching an elastic band by doing all these different habits that are not part of who you are. But unless you change who you are, that elastic can only stretch so long before it rebounds back to your old identity with yourself. So you need to create routines and habits and structures to actually start to create your mindset changes. You cannot leave this to chance. You've done it often enough before where you just hope things would work out. You follow some diet plan and you hope that you're going to make it sustainable, but without being intentional with the mindset changes and having routines and structures to do that, it usually doesn't happen. Number 3 is that life happens. We say this all the time. We say, life happens. I was doing really well until we don't feel like it anymore. We're on vacation, we're busy. Because we haven't learned how to create these routines, create these structures to put living our best lives on our to-do list and to make it realistic for the framework of the day, for the rhythm of where you're at in life, for the season of life. We so often try to do all of the things and uphold some standards of, some diet standards that we had or some workout standards that we had, when all of a sudden our kids are sick, or we're caring for aging parents, or work is super busy. And then we put taking care of myself on the back burner because all these other things are taking priority, without ever making a daily plan to figure out how can these things actually work into your day. So having a routine where you plan your day, and I go into this a lot more, I think, in the summit and also in our my programs, to actually create a plan that's realistic for you one day at a time, because life does happen. And the great thing is that you don't need to choose between enjoying your trip to Hawaii or your cruise and taking care of yourself. You can have it all by simply being intentional and creating a realistic plan for you. So that's another really important routine, is to create a plan for yourself every day that incorporates taking care of yourself.
So good. I love I love how you defined, routine. It's simply a process, a procedure, but I love how you're like, but let's build in routines that address our needs, right? So I think we're trying to often do habits or routines or all these other things because we think we should, but they don't work because maybe they're not addressing our specific needs, what was going on. And I love how those 3 phases, right? We wait for motivation, or we hope to change your mindset afterwards, or life happens, right? And I just think, when it comes to routines too, you probably teach your clients this. It's just like, let's just start small and let's just be intentional versus like, let's just do everything. And that doesn't work. I was just on a call with someone who, wanted to switch up what she just works a lot. And so she eats on the go. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just work on one meal and one thing versus like changing all things all over again. And so I think by doing that, what you're talking about, the routines become more consistent and they become more enjoyable, actually. Like, my gosh, if it's a dread to take care of ourselves, then we're doing something wrong. Well, it is it is a discipline. I'm not trying to like say it's going to be easy. I think some people are like, it's just easy. I'm going to always want to exercise and it's going to totally not stretch me, or it's like, no, you might be sore every day, but that's okay. But it's like, I just think we need to switch, our mindset. But as you were saying, sometimes you can switch your mindset by doing the routine as well around it.
100%. 100%. And these routines that I teach my clients, they are really simple and they don't take a lot of time. The other part that's really important is that you don't want to ever get caught up with the minutia of what the routine is or exactly how to do it perfectly, because most women I work with, and you can probably relate to this as well with your clients who struggle with food, have a tendency to have a perfectionist mindset where everything needs to look a certain way or be perfect, and understanding what the importance of these routines are. So there are 5, sometimes 6 main routines that I like. 5 are the core, and then 6 is set up like a bonus one because it was convenient to add a 6th one for a 6-week program. But there's 5 main routines that I teach, and there's lots of different ways to make them work. For example, one of the routines that we really work on is, again, creating the motivation. Is because motivation doesn't come with us. We need to create the feeling. We need to remind ourselves of our goals. We need to feel that emotion, connect to our goals on a regular basis. But there are lots of different ways to make that happen.
Right.
So for example, we can get caught up with like, oh, I'm not a morning person, or my mornings are so busy, I don't have time to do this and this. But then it's like, well, how can we make it work? Knowing what the purpose is behind it. The purpose is not to follow this 5-step process that works for, Jane over here. The purpose is to create motivation in your day. So if we know what that is, then how can we make it work for your lifestyle? And when we start to take all of whatever you're doing, whether it's, working on your routines, or whether it is doing a workout practice, or whatever you're doing, or doing some sort of mindfulness and meditation, instead of attaching yourself to the actual thing, or it's like, I need to meditate for 10 minutes, or I need to make it look a certain way, understand the purpose of why you're doing it. And then start to become more flexible with how you're going to make it work for you. And it might change from day to day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, healthy eating could be making yourself a home cooked meal, because that's healthy eating, in one season of your life, and the next season of your life, it might be outsourcing and getting somebody else to cook everything for you because you don't have the time right now. But the goal is still healthy eating. It's not to cook the home cooked meal.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Looking at the goal versus kind of the method, and being willing to adjust the method as we go. Yeah. And I think that goes back to, the mindset piece. Like, we just think things need to be a certain way, that it's not true. Like, a total forgiveness for ourselves, because then we're like, oh, why do I think this way? It's like, because we've just either been taught that, or we've just allowed ourselves to think that over time, and it served us at one season, but it doesn't serve us anymore. So let's just, like, as you're saying, like, let's remove the ideas that it needs to be perfect, and really just ask ourselves, like, wholly and truly, like, what do we need right now? And what do we need to do? And how can we make that as simple as possible, so that it's consistent, sustainable, and we're taking care of ourselves?
100%.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, I think we talked about so much great stuff today around routines. And I just encourage you guys, if you're listening, to really think through, what are those, routines in your life that you really need to set, and what would help you be more consistent with them? But I also really encourage you to check out Tanya's talk, because she's going to go way deeper into that, and check out her resources as well. So as we wrap up, we're going to share another free resource that you have right now. But is there anything else you want to say, any bit of encouragement to share with the listeners around routines right now?
If this feels overwhelming, or you're like, I don't know where to start with one thing. And that's exactly what you said, Brianna, there too. Like, start with, maybe it is a practice you have in the morning to start your day with an intention, and to ask yourself, it could be a simple question. Like, what does winning look like for today? That could be your question to start your day. And that could be your routine. Is every morning you wake up in the morning and you say, what does winning look like for today? And you ask yourself, and be realistic. Don't say, well, winning is, doing these 30,000 things, and but be realistic. But keep it super simple. It's consistency over intensity. I know how sexy it is to say, hey, we're going to do this plan, and we're going to lose 4 pounds a week, and it's going to be great. But you know what? We know it doesn't work. I mean, it might work for the short term, but it's not going to work for the long term. And be in this for the long game. Be in this for the long game. Start with where you're at. And yes, I know there are probably lots of things you could do, should do, want to do. But the reality is, when there's too many things, you're not going to do any of it. So just ignore that. Stay focused on where you're at, and choose one thing to work on, and keep it super simple.
I love that. I love that. Consistency versus intensity. I mean, your story, probably my story, probably the clients we've worked with, that's what's gotten us results over the long haul, right? I do think intensity does play a role in a short season if you have the capacity to be intense. But I think first start with consistency, particularly, like I always tell clients, like when I first started exercising, I just walked. And it was amazing. And I love it now so much. I'm like, why do I have to stop walking? But now I have incorporated what people might call more intense fitness routines. But I think it's, in the beginning, to me, it was about consistency. And so now I found something that helps me kind of do both. But if at any moment I'm just like, oh, I need to go hard every day, I'm like, no, I have to pull back and like still be consistent with something else. And so I love that tip.
Absolutely. And you're right. We're right. Because intensity can happen, but consistency first.
Right.
We often just go right to intensity because that's the sexy before and afters that we see. And that's what we want to do. We want to fix our problems right now. But the reality is it's not there. And as you are consistent, your capacity to do more is going to grow.
Right. Yes.
And that's a wonderful thing. And you're right. There might be seasons of your life where you might be a bit more intense, knowing that it might be for a short season too. You're like, well, for this month, I'm going to really focus on upping my workouts, but I'm going to take it the next month off. Like, who knows what that could look like, but
right.
You're absolutely right. That you're still being consistent with your, with your healthy habits.
Right. So tell us a little bit. I know you have a freebie that you want to give away, a free training. Tell us a little bit about that free training.
Yeah. So if you go to fitvibrant50.com, which is fitvibrant, the number 50.com, I have a free training. It's a 35 minute workshop on the 3-step process that I walk my women through, that I take my women through to help them get to their happy, healthy weight naturally, permanently without the obsession. It really dives into that see it, do it, live it phases, goes through some of the challenges that we face and starts to uncover some of that as well. So that is specifically for women over 50. I do have women in my program who are just shy of 50, who are like, I need this now. They're in their late 40s, but my coaching programs are specifically for women over the age of 50.
So good. Well, definitely, I will make sure to link that in there. And if people want to follow you on social media or your website, where can they find you?
Yeah, well, the best, honestly, if you're listening to podcasts, which you probably do since you're listening right now, is I do have a podcast called the Fit and Vibrant You podcast. And that one I've been doing now since 2015. It's started as a love project, and now it's taken off a fair bit. And on Instagram, Facebook, I'm at Tanya Shaw. I think Tanya_Shaw on Instagram, but podcast is always a great way to reach me.
Yeah, definitely check it out. So I'll make sure to link all the socials on the podcast in there, and I will make sure to link the summit in there. The summit is coming up in 2 weeks. It's going to be amazing, 30 plus speakers. So definitely want to check that out, and I'll share more details about that later. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, check out all the details, and we'll see you on the next one. Woo! What a great episode with Tanya. Just really highlighting what are routines, what's the 3-step process to creating a routine, see it, do it, live it, and how we can really not just rely on motivation, but create routines, disciplines that don't feel overwhelming, but are very simple, and that will take us towards transformation and take us towards the life and health that we so desire. So make sure you check out all her resources that she mentioned, but also make sure you join us next week for the Your Healthiest Years Yet Summit, a 5-day free summit with tons of great tips, inspiration, resources, and more to really support you in implementing this more around routines. And I will be doing a lot. This Thursday, I have a prep event for everyone attending the summit. I will be doing a post-group coaching call for those who purchase the summit, and then I actually have something coming up for everyone to really help them with healthy habits in the holidays and beyond. And so there's a lot of great resources, not just to learn, but to implement. So please attend the summit, send the link to a friend, and really just get the support you need in this season and age of your life to truly feel happy, vibrant, and have your healthiest years yet. All right, I'll see you in the summit and see you in the next episode. That's a wrap. That's another episode of the More Than Your Weight podcast. I hope you're leaving encouraged and inspired and empowered to go out there and know that your health and your worth is so much more than your weight. So before you go, again, do a couple things. Make sure you join my Facebook group, the More Than Your Weight Women's Community, where there are daily posts, weekly trainings, and just a lot of support to unpack these episodes, as well as get support in your More Than Your Weight journey. Make sure you also follow me on Instagram, where I show my behind the scenes of my own health, but also just how I care for others along the way. And then make sure you subscribe, and rate and review this podcast, because more women will see that, but also you'll get new episodes every single week. All right, I'll see you on the next episode and can't wait to support you more.